Hello, it's Bud. Jim wants to use someone else's MPC that they've given him, but he wants to do some modifications. So let's understand and modify someone's MPC. Okay, here's the MPC that he was given, and he wants to change the way it is on the board. But before we get into that, we need to know what we have, and this is true of anyone who picks up someone else's MPC for one reason or another. We need to know what's going on with that MPC. I'm going to change this just for my own benefit to get rid of that gray that he was using and just take off the texture. It works a little faster on my machine if I don't have one of the textures that's provided as a standard within CW. And I don't like the wood line necessarily to mess up what I'm doing, so I just get rid of all the texture. I don't know the size of the wood at this point. Obviously it's a cutout and they have hidden everything within the cutout. So if I come here to the cut path, I can uncheck the hide cut path, and I see the whole board. That's just going to help me a little bit. Now if I click somewhere outside of this cross, I can go to board settings, and I can see that the board setting is 14 by 14, 3/4 of an inch thick. And I'm going to write some of this stuff down as I go along, so that I know what I've got. I need to know what cutters it's using and everything else. So I can get out of this just by an X or cancel. And I'm going to start up here at the top. This 375 deep is actually a circle. On my screen it looks kind of like an oval, but it's really a circle. I can tell that because of the sizing here on both axes is the same. It is 0.650 deep, and the height is 100, and there is no angle since it's a circle. But I can see I can rotate this circle. That's what this green dot is for, is to rotate it by hand, or I can go up to layout and rotate it that way 90 degrees at a time. But it's 375 deep is the name of it, and it is a circle in this case. But I need to know that, and I need to know that I can rotate it, because what he wants to do is turn this thing 90 degrees on the board. Let's go to the praying hands. And this carving list is a good way to do this. I can see that the hands are 1/2 inch deep, and the height is a 250. The angle is a 30. And the size is 2.813 by 3.356. And I'm just writing that down so I've got it should I need it. And both of those are an added merge. That's the way it's set up. It's okay. Whether it's needed or not is not important. One thing I didn't do, I want to do it now while I'm here, is I want to go to layout and go to center, and the hands are not centered. I can actually tell that, well, partially, by this green dot and the white line. It does not touch either one of the crosshairs on the board. But I just want to make sure. Let's go back to the circle, go to layout, and go to center. And it is centered horizontally. That means it's on the up and down line, the line that separates the board left and right. So horizontally, the board is in two parts, but it's centered horizontally, and that's going to change when I rotate the board, or when I do this pattern, not rotate the board. If I just turn the board, I haven't really changed anything. I fooled myself, but the machine is still going to place it on the board this way as it runs through to make the cut. And that's what I want to do, is I want to be able to use a board that is less wide. I don't need it 14 inches in both directions for what I'm doing. Okay? The cut path, I want to know what it's doing, so I can come up here and I can edit the cut path, and it tells me it's an 1/8 inch bit. There are 4 tabs minimum. There's 1 per foot at least, and the tab height is 3/16 of an inch. This tab height will come into play if there would be something on the back where it was placing a tab. The tab height is from the basic bottom of the wood. So if I put an 1/8 inch carve area on the back where there was a tab, I would only end up with 1/16 of an inch tab, because an 1/8 inch of it would be gone because of the carve area on the back, if I had one. He has no defaults as far as making this default for the project or for any and all new projects. There is no inset, and my guess is that the person that gave this to Jim had it set up originally to carve using the quick change chuck, which a lot of us chose to use minimum pass depth of 1/4 or 3/10 or something like that, rather than making one full cut, because of the high possibility of breakage of the cut bit. And he has flipped the cut so that the cutout is on the outside of the line, and accepted it. All I'm going to do is get out of it, but I know that there are minimum 4 tabs on this cutout, and that's the main thing. Okay, there is a group, but when I click on the group, there are no dotted lines to anything else. The group apparently has no meaning, so I'm going to throw it away. Whoops, before I do that, before I make any changes, I want to go to File, do a Save As, and wherever I want to put this, I'm going to name it basically the same just by clicking on it or typing everything in. And then I'm coming in here and adding to it -1 or -1, so that I know this is cross and hands -1. I haven't lost my original. I'm just making a new copy, and the name up here is going to change when I do a save. So now all the changes I make are going to be on my second copy, not on the original. As most of you know, you can pause this at any time, take a breath, back it up a little bit, whatever. So if I'm talking too fast, just pause it, drink it in, and come back when you're ready. But I'm going to now highlight the group and X out of it, because it apparently does nothing. Okay. Okay, so I know about the cut path. I also have another path here that has a bit assignment. And if I come up and click on the bit icon, I can see that the 90-degree V-groove bit was selected, and it has a depth of 250. Okay. And there is no max pass depth on that. So that's what I have in that respect. So now we're going to get dangerous. I'm going to come up to the cut path one and throw it away. Bear with me. Okay. Now I'm going to come to the one with the V-groove on it, and I'm going to get rid of the bit. No bit assigned. And click OK. Now I have a path. Now what I'm going to do is go to my Carve region icon and click. And I now have a carve region that happens to be a 1/4 inch deep. That's fine. Okay. While that's still highlighted, I'm going to group. Well, before I do that, I'll show you what's going on. I have nothing up here to make a pattern. This is where it would be, but it's not available to me because I have no carve area yet. Okay. I have a path, or I have the carve area, carve region assigned at a 1/4 of an inch, but it's not ready to make a pattern. I've got it highlighted here on the carving list. I'm going to click on group, and now I have a carving group here. While the outline is still highlighted, I'm going to hold down my control and click on group. So both of them are highlighted, and now the icon for make a pattern is lit. It's the blue shell with a little red burst in it. Not to be confused with the pattern tool. Okay, so I'm going to click on make a pattern. It's going to hand me my listing of patterns. By default it comes in the favorites, which is fine for where I want it to be at this point in time. I have to name it, so just for the sake of naming, I'm going to make it test cross and click save. Now it gets fun. Okay, so I've got the cross and everything. So now if I come to pattern and go to favorites, here's my test cross. So I've got it. So what I'm going to do is, since I know it's there, I'm going to click on the group, click on the path by holding down control, and throw both of those away. And now all I have is the circle, oval, whatever, and the hands, okay, as you can see here. I'm going to click on the test cross and come over here and place it on the board. And now I can do my rotate of that cross. And I'm going to come up to layout, flip and rotate, and I'm going to turn it clockwise 90 degrees. And there it is. But it's not where I want it to be. And I know from looking at it on layout it was centered both directions. So there it is, centered both directions. Okay, and we're just going to work with this and then continue on. I'm going to click on the Outline Patterns tool, which is in the same area as your carve region. And it puts an outline around my pattern. So now I'm done with the test cross. I don't need that carve region or anything. So I'm going to throw it away. And I'm going to come back to this path and deal with it. I know that I want a cut path. It had 4 tabs, so I'm going to make it 4 tabs again. I may or may not want to do a maximum pass depth. I have the new C assembly, the carved tight assembly, and I know that so far it's been rare for anyone to break a cutting bit, the 1/8 inch cutting bit. So I'm not going to worry about maximum pass depth. The tabs are only 1/8 inch. I do not have anything on the back, so 1/8 inch is fine. If I wanted to change that, I could change it to the 3/16 they had, or 1/4 inch, depending on what I might have on the back. But 1/8 inch is fine. I know that right now this cut path is on the inside of the line, and I want to flip that cut. I guess it was on the outside, just by watching it. Okay, so the cut path is on the outside, so I'm going to accept it. And if I turn the board over, I can see my cut path. I also want to assign the V-bit 90 degrees what they had, and they had it 1/4 inch, so I'm going to 0.250. Let's make sure it took it. Yeah, on the OK. I don't need a maximum pass depth, but that is that. Okay, so I've assigned both to that one thing, and you can see the bevel. And if I'm not sure about in or out, since I can see the bevel, I can come over here and do a flip cut and see what happens. Now I guess we do want it flipped, because I want more of that bevel. Say if I unflip it and flip it, I see more of the bevel, and that's what I want. Okay, so that takes care of the V-bit and the cut path. And it is centered both directions. Make sure I still got it there. Yep. Okay. So that takes care of that. Okay, next we'll work with this 375 deep. We know that it's 650. Okay. My layout was centered horizontally, but I want to center it vertically instead. So I've got to do this in 2 steps. Number 1, I'm going to center it vertically, and that moves it down to that line. Come back and unclick center horizontally. And now, if I set within the box, I get a 4-pointed arrow. I don't want to change the sizing, but I want to move this thing up. Towards the top of the cross. I can't move it up and down on the board because I got it centered on this line right here, the vertical line. But what I want to do is eyeball how the oval or circle looks in comparison to the edge of the pieces of the cross that I see. It looks like I did a fairly decent job. Just barely touches that line. If I remember right, when I started out, it just barely touched the line. Okay, so I've got that one done. So I come to the hands, and I'm going to go layout, flip, and rotate it 90 degrees counterclockwise. And then nothing was centered, so I'm just going to move it. And what I want to do is get it in here, and my point of reference is the thumb. The thumb just touches the line, and I don't want the fingertips to touch the circle, and I don't want the cuffs to touch. It's a little too far to the left as we're looking at it, so I'm just going to move it to the right of here. And there we have it. So I've moved everything. So now what I want to do is I want to save this. I can either use the disk icon here, or I can come up to File and do a save. I only have to do a save as when I begin with the new name. After that, all I have to do is do the save here. And I have saved this particular carving in that respect. Now, the board is larger than I need it, and that was my main intent. Okay, the width of this board, top to bottom as we're looking at it, is 14 inches, but the cross itself is only a little over 8 inches. And it's pretty well centered on the board. So if I change the board size to a 10 inch on the width, okay, since the hands were not centered on anything, I have to move them again. I should have, as soon as I put my cross on it, changed the board size. Since I didn't, I'll click on the hands again and reposition them. And there we have it on a 10-inch wide board, still 14 long, and it's well centered in that. So I do another save, and there I have my project, and that basically will help us understand and modify someone's MPC. We know what bits were used, we know how it was tethered and all that. If there was anything locked, the numbers for the lock would have been something other than the green, probably a yellow or a red, probably yellow, and I would deal with those along with everything else, because those locked figures have to be accounted for as you move things around. And that basically helps us understand and modify someone's MPC. Jim and I talked on the phone. I know he understands it, and I just wanted to make this video to help other people understand. I have another video on rotate a closed figure, which uses some of these concepts that we talked about here, just in case you don't understand exactly what's going on. You can go to that rotate a closed figure and get more information just on that particular process. I hope that helps. Enjoy.